Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Challenge Talks. I'm Phil Saunders, the chairman of Challenge and the co-founder of two of its flagship projects. One of them is named Path of Hope and Peace, which is a grassroots coexistence project between Israelis and Palestinians adjacent to the Green Line, southwest of Jerusalem. And the other is the Federal Forum, where we have gathered together uh, thinkers who have been working for many years on a creative solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict based on some kind of federal approach, which would combine the best of both worlds of the two-state and one-state solutions. And this evening, we're honored to welcome Dr. Ben Moloff to be presenting to us today. He is on the faculty of the graduate program in conflict management, resolution and negotiation, the School of Communication, and heads the project for the study of religion, culture and peace at Bar-Ilan University in Israel. He has a BA from Queens College, New York, an MA at the Columbia University of International Affairs, and a PhD in political science at Bar-Ilan. He is the author of Power and Transcendence, Hans Morgenthau and the Jewish Experience, has published widely and appeared in international conferences throughout the world. And tonight he will be presenting to us on his new book, Approaches to Jewish-Arab Interreligious Dialogue and Peacebuilding, Theory and Practice. So, over to you, Ben. Thank
Okay,
you very
thank you,
much.
Phil. Thank you. Okay, good evening, Erev Tov, Masal Khir. Well, this is really an honor for me because I've been working very hard on this book for well over 3 years, and the book is really a compendium of the work that I've done in this area of Jewish-Arab interreligious dialogue or Jewishly oriented approaches to peace building over the past 30 years, both from the point of view of practice, research, and education. And what I'd like to do now is to share certain aspects of the book with you, which is a reflection of the work that I've done in this area. So the first thing that I can do is, by the way, this book is being published by IGI Global Publishers, Global Books. And just let me give you a quick rundown of the table of contents. So the first part will be a introductory background area, a general introduction, and then the whole area of religion, conflict, and conflict resolution. The area of religion and peace is something which is fairly new. We know about religion and conflict. But again, the genre that I've been working on together with others has been that religion can be a bridge between groups and not necessarily just a force for conflict escalation. So that chapter 2 just kinds of gives a little bit of a global overview. And then chapter 3, this was important for me to position the book, position the discourse in the book. This is the Arab-Israeli conflict as rooted in religion and culture. I mean, it's been my assertion that we cannot escape the Arab-Israeli conflict having a religious dimension or being rooted in religion because it already is. The Arab-Israeli conflict is not just a territorial, limited political conflict, but it's based on a clash of identities connected to the same area and which at root are religiously and culturally based. And so we're already there. It's not something that we can escape. Anyway, that's the background, and then the main portion of the book is devoted to main findings and applications. 3 chapters. That's chapter 4, chapter 5, and chapter 6. They'll be dealing with empirical work that I've done in either done or recorded in terms of Israeli-Palestinian, Jewish-Arab interreligious dialogue, some other aspects connected to cultural aspects of communication between Jews and Arabs. Then chapter 7 is idealism and realism based on the Jewish political tradition. Well, here I have to say that my approach is probably somewhat different than many others in the field. I mean, the area of dialogue, which very often very much connects with people-to-people dialogue that you've probably heard the term, is very much connected to the social psychological orientation. And it's sort of predicated on idealist premises in the sense that, well, we can work things out together. the world is basically harmonious, you know, with enough goodwill, with enough understanding, contact between the groups. You know, I don't want to be too simplified, but we can, you know, we can work it out. The contact between people is very important. And I do believe that. I mean, those of us who have been in dialogue, we do see moments that are really magical and transforming and really inspiring. But I'm a political scientist. I had received my doctorate in political science. I wrote my dissertation on Hans Morgenthau, who was really the primary theoretician of international relations, and he was the sort of spokesman of a realist approach, meaning that power and interest can be in conflict, and you need power to survive. Okay, so I really combine idealism and realism in my approach over time. Then chapter 8 really is devoted to, you know, the convergence of interest between myself and challenge, a federalist covenantal approach to peace building. And this is another sort of leg of the work that I've done, which we'll touch on before, you know, connected to. And then I deal with a general sort of fairly new area, fairly innovative area by the name of chapter 9, religious diplomacy. And then 10, I give some attention to the Abraham Accords and why that is a game changer. And finally, conclusions. Now, of course, I do mention the terrible events of October 7th and the ensuing Gaza war, but certainly in the background and certainly make reference to it. But again, we're looking at the aspects that can still provide us with some vision. If anything, I would hope that the book could have some relevance for the day after, when we're looking for new paradigms, when we're looking for new way forwards. There's one quote that I have in the book that I use. Menachem Begin had said this. He said, "War is avoidable, peace is inevitable." So, you know, that's the way human life has been on this planet, you know, these waves. And I hope that this book will be able to add something to the discourse that will be seeking or models or approaches when we come to a better place. Anyway, let me share with you what the main themes are as I see it in the book. One is that religion can indeed serve as a bridge between Jews and Arabs in the Middle East. Again, this is based on my own work, and some of you have seen similar things based on the similarities between Judaism and Islam. And the premise is that just as the Arab-Israeli conflict is based on religion and culture, you need religious and cultural strategies to help ameliorate that conflict. Two, by focusing on the religious and cultural, call it infrastructure foundation, we can, at least to a degree, reconceptualize and reframe the dialogue between Israeli Jews and Palestinian Arabs. When I say Palestinian Arabs, I mean either the Palestinian Arabs within the state of Israel who are citizens of Israel and those who are outside of it. And as a way of circumventing, to a degree, narrow nationalistic political discourse. There are limits to that, but I'll touch on that hopefully later.
Ben,
yes.
can I just
Yes.
ask, can you turn up your volume or move closer to your computer? Some people are saying that they can't hear you well enough.
Oh, okay. How is it now?
Yeah, better.
Okay. I'm virtually swallowing the microphone, but if that's what I have to do, I will do it. I will swallow the bitter pill. Okay. Then the third, and this is in my own work, I see this as cardinal, the promotion of mutual respect between Jews and Arabs, which can be advanced by interreligious dialogue, is paramount in the Middle East for peace building and conflict resolution. Okay, absolutely, mutual respect is absolutely important. I mean, it's more than just a mantra, a motto. Okay. Now, interreligious dialogue alone doesn't act as a factor for advancing conflict resolution. I'm sort of blocked by your faces, but I'm going to do the best I can in reading it. And conflict resolution and peace building must be combined with the traditional elements of diplomacy, which involve what's called soft power and hard power, or idealism and realism, which I mentioned before. which can bring about balances of power, okay? Because again, my approach has been to combine the social psychological approach together with the balances of power. Frankly, if we look at the history of the Middle East, the Arab-Israeli conflict, if we've come to a period of moving forward, you know, the 5 peace treaties that Israel has at the moment, yeah, more than 5 at the moment, but, you know, the more numerous ones, then it's a function of Israel showing that it's here to stay. And then on the other hand, that brings a herding stalemate or balances of power, which then can allow peace building to occur. I don't believe that we can exist only on power, but fortunately or unfortunately in the Middle East, power is also essential, okay? Let's go further. So let me just touch on a few points here when it comes to the background of religion and the Arab-Israeli conflict. As I mentioned, the common assumption is that injecting the religious dimension into the conflict can only lead to an escalation of conflict. Well, and as I said, well, we can't escape it because it already is. I mean, the two parallel narratives are based upon the two formative periods of the two people, you know, the Jewish and the Arab peoples, that are religiously and culturally based. And here I put it in sort of maybe a hopefully more succinct way, that the Arab-Israeli conflict is a function of two parallel civilizations, meaning the Jewish Zionist and the Arab Islamic, or the Jewish, which in the 19th and 20th centuries rebelled against unacceptable conditions. I mean, the Jewish people rebelled against the centuries of persecution and homelessness and disenfranchisement. And the Arab peoples rebelled against the feelings of humiliation, subservience, and they looked back to an earlier heroic era upon which they could reconstitute themselves or revive themselves. So the Jewish Zionist narrative was look back to the period of the Bible. We want to recreate ourselves on the background of the Bible. Hence the you know, the revival of the Hebrew language, coming back and revering the period that the Jewish people lived in their own land and not homelessness throughout the centuries, and were prophets and kings and soldiers and close to the land and you know, farmed the earth, and you know, had a mission to the world in terms of the periods of development of the kingdoms and the temple. And then the Arab Islamic Empire, which is based on, just 1 second, 1 second. Okay. Yeah, very sorry. The Arab Islamic period, the sort of heroic era, the heroic period of the Arab Islamic civilization, from the time of the appearance of the Prophet Muhammad to the empire and the advanced civilization, which in my reckoning existed from the 7th through the 10th centuries. And then there was a period of decline and subjugation, even though Islam, you know, spread throughout the world, like to the Far East, through the process of its own attraction, and you know, an advanced civilization, but then went into decline to the point that during the Ottoman Empire there was very little emphasis on Arab identity, but that was rediscovered in the 19th century. So I see that as two parallel movements that kind of had self-reflections that now is the time that we have to recreate ourselves. Why are we this way? And why are we this way? And then to reconstitute themselves based on that heroic period. Okay. Now, the background, and I mentioned the empirical chapters. So I have 3 chapters devoted to that. So empirical research and applications. And again, the assumption is that a religiously based conflict requires religious and cultural approaches to bridge the conflict or strategies. Anyway, I present in the book several case studies, which I was either involved in organizing and or researching and surveying. One was a dialogue, and this is really where I began my work, a dialogue which I was able to co-initiate together with a faculty member at the University of Hebron in 1994. This was already at the beginning of the Oslo period. I was a faculty member at I was a young faculty member at Bar-Ilan University. I was teaching a course in the Arab-Israeli conflict, and I had been introduced to a number of students through their professor, an American visiting professor at the University of Hebron. And of course, that was even in the 1990s. The student union dominant party was Hamas, and I had met with a group of 7 Palestinian students who were studying English literature, and I had a fascinating discussion with them in basically December 1994 as to how I teach the Arab-Israeli conflict at an Israeli university. And I talked about 3 sides to the conflict: at least one Jewish partner, at least one Arab partner or actor, at least one Jewish actor, at least one Arab actor, and at least one great power actor, but the deeper cultural background between them. Then from that meeting that I had just with the Palestinian students, it led to 5 years of direct meetings between my students at Bar-Ilan University and Palestinian students from the University of Hebron, in which we found, sort of quite almost accidentally, like discovering penicillin, that religion could be a source of commonality. I had been to political dialogues before, and they became a little bit loud and tense. But in this particular case, I remember we had a sort of a pretty dignified meeting of Palestinian students from the University of Hebron, my students from Bar-Ilan University, which is a religious university, and a student from each side introduced themselves, talked about a bit about their institutions, how many students study, what are the fields of interest, do the genders study together or not. And then we waited, and then again, the interreligious encounter started almost by accident, where one of the female Jewish students that I had asked the one Arab woman who was wearing a hijab, "Do you wear the head covering because of marriage like you do in Orthodox Jewish practice or not?" And of course, you don't. It's in Islam, it's the age of maturity. But it wasn't something about an accusation about the politics or something else. And that led to another little interaction about Ramadan. It happened to have been Ramadan at that point. And then the Arab Muslim students asked to be excused and say the late afternoon prayer. And we heard the words like Rahman, Rahman, same in Hebrew, merciful one. And we began to sort of, connect to the language. And then we adjourned for after, sunset, and we had refreshments. This was at a Christian Bible college in Bethlehem, okay? And then but the atmosphere, once that occurred and people could talk about anything they wanted, was already very relaxed. So people were talking to each other rather than debating at each other. Anyway, the way was open to have continue, and we had developed a formula. We would start with introductions. We would choose a theme beforehand, like prayer in the 2 religions, laws of kashrut, and halal, even laws of mourning. We even did biotechnology. We had a professor from Ben Gurion University who was a specialist in biotechnology and had some understanding of both Judaic and Islamic approaches to biotechnology in this, challenging context. And then this also looks a little science fiction. I was able to cover a research escort for a major interreligious dialogue, Israeli-Palestinian, that occurred in Khan Yunis, Gaza, 1999. We went through Mahsom Erez. We even took a Sefer Torah in. And it was remarkable. The discussions were about prayer in the three religions. It was under the auspices of the Palestinian Authority. And we did quantitative research. Okay, we distributed questionnaires before and after. This was designed to measure the impact of the interreligious encounter. Did it change perceptions between the parties? Then at Bar-Ilan University, we've had a series of activity, and then the Akko Regional College, Academic College. There was also a Holocaust Memorial Mission. Again, all these things were undertaken and also evaluated or surveyed for quantitative data. How you saw the other side before the encounter and then after. Jewish Arab women's encounter done through the Interfaith Encounter Association. Anyway, the bottom line is that we found, consistently that religion could indeed moderate perceptions between the sides. Now, in a way, how does this compare with other types of dialogue processes? Basically, very simply, or very making it kind of, as basic as possible. So you have you have two other types of dialogue. You have the sort of getting to know you manner. We're all human. Let's find something we have in common. I've even seen dialogue meetings where they bring in an American expert and leaders of dialogue groups, and he does an exercise, and he's brought peace to, I don't know, warring parties in the Balkans. And what is the magic formula? Well, he has people sit around and he asks Israelis and Palestinians and asks them, what color do you like the most? What is your favorite color? And when an Israeli and a Palestinian say blue, he thinks he's halfway to solving the conflict, But that's the very superficial side, finding commonalities. And then on the other side is the sort of just very direct political. Let's talk about the points in contention, the politics, in a direct way. The interreligious approach seems to, again, combine the best of both worlds, because you're dealing with commonalities, as we saw, between, kosher, halal, prayer, all these elements. Fasting. I mean, of the Abrahamic religions, Islam and Judaism are the closest together in terms of structure and practice. As a matter of fact, there was even Israel had its own one astronaut. Unfortunately, that ended tragically in the Columbia disaster, for NASA. And Arab countries, one Saudi Arabia, one Malaysia, that I'm aware of, had their experience. And in both cases, the astronauts asked for guidance from the religious authorities about elements. How do you pray in outer space? How do you calculate time? I mean, you're going around the world every, hour and a half. And they were both given virtually the same advice by their respective religious authorities. You calculate your point of reference for night and day from the point of your launching on Earth, okay? So you don't pay attention to what's happening in your capsule. You pay attention to that point of launching, so you can calculate your time of day for prayer, etc., and the Shabbat in the case of the Jews. Anyway, so let's go on. Now, one part I'd like to just devote a little bit more time to, this next case study, which I've been involved with for the last 6 years. The case study of the Jewish-Arab Interreligious Dialogue course at Bar-Ilan University. It's been taking place now from 2018 to 2024. It is, to my understanding, the only I mean, there are different, workshops and courses between, Jewish-Arab dialogue, but this is the only one that deals specifically with the interreligious aspect, to the best of my knowledge. It is run in conjunction as well with the Interfaith Encounter Association, which some of you may be aware of. It has a syllabus, and it's structured around methodologies of religious practices. There'll be a session devoted to the holidays in Islam and Judaism, etc. family, lifestyle, life events. And then the students would be divided into discussion groups after the break, and then they'd be given a sort of a guiding question on, like, if it's holidays, for instance. Well, first of all, the students would be given an opportunity to answer, to ask questions of the other side. If they want to clarify something, and then I would ask them a question like, for instance, what are your fondest memories of holidays, for instance? Ramadan or Eid al-Fitr or something versus, let's say, Sukkot or something joyous. And then it might be, for instance, if we discuss prayer, I may ask them to discuss, well, do you carry out the commandments? Do you carry out because you feel that you're commanded to, it's an obligation, or you really feel a sense of joy in doing it? Okay, so these are some of the issues I collected. And now this is very important, very important. The course is based upon 3 educational pillars, which in my opinion, really express and show the importance of mutual respect. So again, the educational pillars are mutual respect, self-respect, and mutual enrichment between Jews and Arabs, and at times we have Christians as well. And also, as sort of a subheading, I tell the students that I want, as a result of the course, that they come out as better Jews, as better Muslims, and as better Christians than they came at the beginning of the course. Okay. The idea is that they're coming out to enhance their identity, not to threaten their identity. Of course, hopefully with an open mind to others. But it's not like, we're just all people and all of these particular identities aren't important. They are important, okay? Now, another ground rule, no explicit discussion of political issues, but in a way, as I see it, the course transcends or promotes a discourse, which is a dialogue of identities, which is the background of the conflict, okay? Once we understand where we're coming from, what our identities are based on, and we're two peoples living in the same land, hopefully that can be a more fruitful avenue than just sort of getting into politics in a more direct way. By the way, is Irene Majadli here?
Hi, Dr. Molob. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm introducing Irene Majali. I cannot see all of the people. Irene was an extremely involved student, one of the stars. She was with me like 3 years ago as a student, and then she continued assisting me in the course. And anyway, you know what? Do you want to add 2 words about the course, Irene?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I hope that you all are doing well. I'm sorry that I cannot open my camera, but first of all, I just want to say to Dr. Molob that I'm truly proud of this course, and I'm truly proud of him and proud of this journey. I actually joined the course when I was in my first year in university. I was lost. I had no Jewish friends at all. Although I come from a family that has Jewish friends, but I had never had the opportunity to speak to Jewish people from my age or a couple of years older. And it's been a pleasure to participate in this course because it gave me the opportunity to speak in university, because I personally come from the field of biotechnology, and in our studies, we don't usually get the chance to speak to other people, let alone to get to know them in this beautiful and magical way that this course allows us to meet other people. Dr. Molob from the beginning made it very clear that he wanted each and every one of us to shine in their own way and to be proud of of where we were coming from, and be proud of our religion. And that was really beautiful in this course. And as he said, we truly came out of it as better Muslims and better Jews, because in each one of the sessions, Dr. Molob would ask us personal questions about the religion and about certain things, just like prayer. And some people, by talking, really would understand how much their own religion means to them. And that way they think that it's, they like, for, let's say someone that loves their religion, but they're not committed to it, when they have the chance to speak about it, it suddenly helps them become better Muslims and also better Jews. And people really are truly comfortable to ask questions, because Dr. Molov really succeeded to make this very loving and warming let's say atmosphere, because he makes sure that everyone would feel comfortable. And he always says that if someone feels uncomfortable, or that if something suddenly happened, that they would approach them. And all of the students are completely comfortable with that. So we're truly happy. And we also, I've been a student of this course, and I would like to say a child of this course for the past 3 years. And actually, I have really good friends that I came out of Jewish and Arab after this course. And actually, one of the students that I met when I was in my first year in this course, I talked to her yesterday, and she told me that she was pregnant. So it felt really heartwarming. I also learned a lot of things about Judaism in this course, just like why women wear the headscarf and why the men wear the kippah. And it allowed me to make connections with people that I do not know. For example, if I go into the elevator and I see someone with a scarf, I would tell her, wow, it looks amazing on you. And she would say, how do you know? Do you know its meaning? And I start talking about what I know. And this is a point to make people bond together. Because sometimes I think that what limits us from bonding is the fact that there are a lot of stereotypes in our heads. But if you just smile to another person, or say a comment about their religion, it makes them really heart-warmed, and it makes them think that, oh, these people are nice. They suddenly forget all the things that they have in their head about the other side, and it becomes really easy to make great connections. And I'm truly proud of this course, and I would love to continue the journey with Dr. Molov. And it's been really great to see him now get to the point where he's releasing his book, because I remember from the times where I was in my first year, I would ask him, Dr. Molov, when are you going to release the book? I want to read it. And it's making me really emotional now. So I want to say that I'm truly proud of him, and I'm proud of all of this journey. And I truly can't wait how things go. And I can't wait to make new memories each year as I participate in the course. So thank you, Dr. Molov.
Wow. Okay. Irene, shukran katir. It's really very moving what you said. And the year that Irene was in the course, so they had given me a present, a beautiful, beautiful, elegant pen to sign my book when it comes out. So I have that. They actually gave something else, even a sort of album that they had published secret, without my knowledge, and that was also beautiful. Anyway, just getting back to the course, so we had joint celebrations of Hanukkah. We had several times we had a fast breaking of the iftar at the end of, each night at Ramadan. We had visits to the synagogue, and we started every session with learning some rudimentary Arabic conversation, and then Jewish religious terms. One of the things that always was a basis of curiosity to the Arab students was the mezuzah. They would see the the box on the doorpost, and the Jewish students, many of them were kissing it. Well, what is that? So we were able to explain, the sacred, scripture. And at the here at campus synagogue, the rabbi was able to talk to us about the tefillin, similar idea. And again, a bonding over these things. This was a mosque in Akko. Met with the Muezzin, mosque in Kfar Qasem, met with the Sheikh, a Hanukkah celebration on campus. Okay, Jewish student on the right, Arab Muslim student in the middle, Christian Arab student on the left. We even had a Hanukkah celebration in the year that Irene was in, 2-3 years ago, and an interfaith Hanukkah event. Okay. The Arab students who kind of love to, learn how to do the dreidel. This was an iftar dinner that the Arab students had prepared for the Jewish students. Anyway, so we had done research evaluation. All the students produced, had to submit student reflection papers. That's, qualitative research. There are, really some superb quotes here. I can't go into them now. We just don't have the time. but one religious Zionist male student, came, I mean, he defined himself as a religious Zionist, and he said, right-wing religious Zionist, he said, but I came to believe that peace is an option. Okay. Now, what happened this year? Well, you can imagine that maybe people would say, well, oh God, what would happen this year? And I remember Irene and I, who was assisting me, talked a lot about what the atmosphere could be. But the truth is that we were able to begin the course in a very constructive way, and it remained that way. And we were able to have something of a protected environment on campus. And basically, the idea was this is a pioneering course, and we are trying to serve as a model for something better. Anyway, I can send this PowerPoint out, and you can read some of the, feedback of the students. Here, one Arab student on the bottom. A number of the Arab students, as a result of the course, expressed their commitment to becoming agents of change by carrying forth the lessons which they learned, knowing that they can build bridges to create a better world. They even mentioned a TED talk by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs that they had seen in class. Again, this was all 2024. Okay. So let me just skip to, again, we can send out this PowerPoint. You can see some of the comments of the students. But the second part now, or the last part, federalism, and I'll try to encapsulate this very quickly. The federalism is meant to be a new paradigm for conflict resolution approaches both in Israeli society, but aimed at both the domestic and the external challenges, meaning external challenges in terms of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict beyond Israel's borders, okay, and within Israel itself, all right? So let me position you in terms of the havoc and the polarization that occurred in Israeli society before October 7th. This is a demonstration not for demanding action on the hostage deal. This is, remember, on the whole judicial question. And according to the Jewish People's Policy Institute, that domestic crisis is a function of a clash of values and clash of culture and even subgroups within Israeli society. Question is how we deal with that. Well, I've been running now for about the past over 20 years a special course in the program on conflict resolution, graduate program, called New Approaches to Conflict Resolution in Israeli Society. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's run in cooperation with the German Konrad Adenauer Foundation. Now, it is anchored in a federalist approach. Again, Israel's sort of formulative model was the unitary model, meaning in the new state of Israel, the new Jewish polity, unity through uniformity. Unity through uniformity. Elazar, who's really the main pioneer in this area, both the federalism and the Jewish political tradition, which is encapsulated by the idea of covenant or brit, and he says that actually both federalism and covenant are inherently linked. He says really that provides for a number of key issues or key elements. One is, you see on the left side, diversity within unity. So not unity through uniformity, but diversity through unity. So principles of social partnership. Interactions are more important than agreement on definitions. Martin Buber was considered a federalist thinker. Okay. Then in terms of the course that I mentioned, the students, after they learned, came to be familiar with the federalist idea and how it could be applied to Israeli society. The students were exposed to 8 group narratives in Israeli society. Actually, Irene was looking for another credit that she needed to finish her BA. And well, she did say she wanted to take another course with me. So I opened this course to her, which I have the opportunity to do for special outstanding BA students, even though it's a graduate course. And the students were exposed to the Haredi Ashkenazic sector, the Shas, people aligned with Shas, the Russian-speaking population in Israel, national religious, liberal secular, the Druze, Ethiopian, and of course, Arab society. Basically, the idea is to promote interdependence in Israeli society and a sense of mutual responsibility. Now, the federalist approach, diversity within unity, which implies mutual respect, really is lacking. If you look at the TV each time, and I get astounded each time, you have like a panel on dealing with, some major issue. It could be the Haredi draft or something like that. And you really have a festival of people talking at each other, but no sense of let's think about the fact that, where are you? Where am I? As a matter of fact, the way I put it is look, I have my own vision. I have my own, and I tell this to my students, I have my own, and particularly this course was also challenging in 2004. And many of the students in the course were senior people in government, in education, some in the security sector, the defense sector. And there was a, I have my own vision. I have my own, I have a vision, but I have my own values and my own, position, my own convictions. But I tell the students, look, in a way, in Israeli society, if we talk about interdependence, if I can, look at someone whose politics are very different than I am, and very often someone would make one remark in the class, and then it would be like putting a match to a field of weeds, dried weeds, and then it's just a whole fire throughout the field. The dynamic. You've seen it. So I said, look, whoever, look, I need you, frankly, even though your opinions are very different than mine, but you also need me. I mean, frankly, I'm religious, but my orientation is more universalistic than many in the national religious community. That's more directly, nationalistic, etc. But we need each other, and we can find many, many aspects where everyone has a piece of the truth. Okay, certainly from the Arab sector, I've learned a great deal from the course. I've come to appreciate Ramadan, many aspects of that size. Again, I don't want to be Pollyannish, and sometimes I've had to exercise some hard power in the course, where I was on the verge of throwing people out the window because they were not able to listen. I mean, and then I would have to impose order on the class in a very, very strong way, and but at the same time, encourage people to listen to each other. You can ask hard questions, but in an intelligent way. Okay. Federalism is meant to promote that type of civil dialogue if we're talking about social partnership. The course also involves an ongoing seminar in Akko as an example of local federalism. Okay. So I can't go into that too much, but we've been with the Akko community now for about 12 years during its good times, and then it's bad times, and then it's good times, and then it's bad times. But we're sort of there, and we're not just coming to listen, we're coming to offer our ideas about federalism. As a matter of fact, we tell them, oh, you're doing a federalist type of dynamic, and they would say, we are? Well, they were doing it. They didn't know it by the name, but we're conceptualizing it for them. Okay. Now, finally, can we apply federalism to the Israeli-Palestinian equation? And here I also refer to Daniel Elazar, who wrote the book in 1991, Two Peoples, One Land, in which he tries to extend a federalist idea to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Anyway, in my research, and certainly as a result of my interaction with my colleagues and now I believe friends in Challenge, the Federal Forum, that we do see, I've been exposed to an important example of local federalism, which is what, Phil is the spearhead on, which is the tripartite cooperation, Beitar Elite, Husan, and Tzur Hadassah. Maybe you've heard, the roots in Gush Etzion. And then also the federalist approach of diversity within unity can provide a sliding scale, anywhere from basic just functional cooperation, which is if we can get to that at this point, we're doing pretty well, to maybe a maximum movement, well, in any way, but the principles to maybe at one point to confederation, which implies two states, but then they're amalgamated, maybe at some point. Well, from that, two places, 2 points on the spectrum. And then what would be the principles? Well, in terms of this particular situation now, maximum dignity to the Palestinians, maximum economic stability and progress for the Israelis, maximum security. And I would suggest now that the federalist approach, certainly at this point, would not involve two states, would not involve one state. As a matter of fact, if you keep your ear to the ground, and this is what I have the opportunity to do, Phil's colleagues and partners in Husan, they've told him explicitly, and no concern about making it public, that they do not want a two-state solution at this point. They will come out on the short end of this. They definitely want some type of connection with Israel. So the federalist approach can meet that need at the moment. I would call it 1.5 states. Okay, that may even be an approach for Gaza at this point. We're looking for a paradigm, conceptually. Anyway, conclusions and challenges. Evidence that the religion can indeed serve as a bridge between Jews and Arabs. We have hopefully, the UAE, the Abraham Accords are still in place. They talk about maybe a different change of culture in Gaza. Some of the spirit of the Abraham Accords, applied there, and what we've done here in the work that I'm, following, can also contribute to that. Politics cannot be totally circumvented, although we try, but cannot be totally circumvented. It is still in the background, but moderation and mutual understanding and an emphasis on mutual respect can help to moderate that discussion. I even interviewed, for instance, the former jurist and diplomat, Eliakim Rubinstein, who is very, very much a proponent of the idea of mutual respect in his numerous diplomatic assignments, and as a esteemed judge on the Israeli Supreme Court, who dealt with issues of Jewish-Arab relations within Israel. Anyway, I rest my case for the book, and I don't know, it's a little interesting. Maybe I'll read it. I don't know. Anyway, so thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much, Ben. Okay, so I guess we should move to questions and answers. And there have been a couple of questions raised in the chat, but if anybody else has other questions,
Elias has raised his hand.
Exactly. I was just going to say that others should raise their hands, and then we will respond to them in order. I will actually start with a question that Eric asked in the chat. He noted that at one point in your presentation, you listed many different kinds of sectors of Israeli society, Ethiopians, Russians, and only at the end you've said, and Arab society as well. And he asked, why does the federalism course have only one definition of Arab society while the Jewish community is split into many? Do you have an answer for that question?
Well, first of all, we give a good deal of emphasis in the course to the Arab sector. Basically, there are three main events that deal with the Arab sector in various ways. I give a lecture on the cultural, religious background of the Arab-Israeli conflict and interreligious approaches to dealing with it. And then we have an Arab lecturer who deals with the Arab sector in Israel, the history, the main issues of concern to the Arab sector, the historical experience from the military government and on. What's the political agenda? What's the prognosis? And a full day seminar in Akko. Now, in terms of, breaking down the Arab sector into more specific subsectors within the Arab sector, I'll have to be, perfectly honest, it is not my area of expertise. And frankly, even if it was, I don't know if we can, just have the time for that. I mean, I could do Christian Arabs as well. We can mention that in the course, but I can't devote a whole period of time to the Christian Arabs. For instance, even in terms of the Ashkenazic Haredim, so you have the Hasidim and you have the non-Hasidic Haredim, and they're mentioned in the course, but we can't do a whole whole thing. So we're doing the spectrum, you know. I mentioned at the end, not because it's given little attention in the course. It's given actually quite a bit of attention. And we had a number of Arab students this year, including Irene and a number of her fellow students. And I think that the students came out, all of the students, Jewish students, came out also with a you know an impression that definitely made an impact on their thinking.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and speaking of Christian Arabs, Elias, your question.
Yeah, I was trying to speak about Christian, but he answered it. But I have another question for Muslims, if I can.
Sure.
Actually, if now we are in the wartime, but perhaps we have peace, regional peace in the area. What about if the Arab and Muslim country has peace with Israel, and we accept a lot of pilgrimage from Muslim country on feast? Perhaps we can borrow the Western Wall campus for Friday, little hour prayers by your book.
Wait a minute, I'm trying to understand what you're saying, that in the event that there's peace and that more and more pilgrims from the Arab Islamic countries want to come here. But I understand. I mean, from the point of view of Jewish tradition, Jewish tradition, the Temple Mount, or what you call Haram el-Sharif, but the Temple Mount, that's the heart. The reason that the Western Wall is important is that it represents that. But it's really not the heart and soul. So the Arab Muslims have, unadulterated, access to the Temple Mount, which is our area of the Holy of Holies. It's really not a coincidence that is where the great mosque, the Dome of the Rock, was built, because it is a holy, point of connection on the planet Earth, actually. Why would that be necessary?
Actually, the space is about 144 acre, but if most of Muslims comes here in the prayers, it will not find too much spaces. Perhaps we can submit some people down there.
I don't know, because I was just at the Western Wall a few days ago, and frankly, I don't think that would go over too well unless we did some type of exchange program, which I'm not speaking for the government, but it would be an interesting exercise where we have the opportunity to go fully and pray openly in the area of the Temple Mount, and temporarily or whatever, and then you temporarily go to the plaza, theoretically. So I don't know if you want to do a full exchange program, how that would work. But I mean, look, it's interesting, and whenever you have an encounter, and I work very much on the intercivilizational approach, Huntington is very meaningful to me. And again, I mentioned this conflict between two civilizations that are renewing themselves. Now, the Jews are the most fewest in number of the great Abrahamic religions. But I mean, look at the attention that the world has on the Jewish people. It's been sort of a mystery for many to say, how did the Jewish people? As a matter of fact, when I visited Jordan, it occurred to me that the Jews are like the Nabateans, built a great civilization on the land, then they went into exile, but that was the end of them. But the Jewish people continued, even in exile, with the dream, in our holidays and everything else, to return. So certainly the Muslims are far more numerous. But in terms of equality, there's Judaism and Islam grew out of Judaism, frankly. So anyway, I think we have to come to a appreciation and understanding, and this is where balances of power are very, very important. I mean, eventually Egypt, at the end, made peace with Israel, and I do point out that it wasn't after the 6-Day War, which was Israel's most, comprehensive victory. It was only after the Yom Kippur War in which the Egyptians and the Syrians were able to gain some sense of self-respect, honor, and then meet the Israelis as equals. So I I adhere to that, you know. And look, the Israelis are coming, the Jews are coming back into history. And in terms of collective memory, the Arab Islamic Empire existed when the Jews were no longer an active political force in the region. And the Jews had, you know, their civilization and the temples, which represented the you know, pinnacle of those civilizations during the time of the Bible, without you know, in which the Muslim, the Arab Muslim, you know, collective did not exist. So I think we have to kind of get used to each other, and hopefully in a good way. As a matter of fact, you know, I had this sort of, I don't want to call it a vision, but the sort of insight. I mentioned I was at the Kotel, the Western Wall, just a few days ago. And I have been privileged to be on the Temple Mount several times. And in interreligious context, I also, I had been to Malaysia twice in speaking engagements, which was a little bit of a pioneering endeavor. And I had been asked by the foreign ministry to escort visiting Muslims, for instance. That's taking your idea of, you know, additional Muslims coming from the periphery and coming to the Temple Mount. So I escorted them. I had the privilege of doing that. And I felt that the Temple Mount is this place of just overwhelming, I call it calm spirituality, of enormous power, enormous spiritual power, power strong enough to bring people together, which has to be pretty powerful. And depending on my mood, I guess, you know, which is influenced by the environment. But what I did see this time, you know, I saw, like, you know, I mean, the Western Wall, and you see Jews from all over the world being there, and you know, very much involved in commitment to the past and the present and the future. And then you see it just, you know, a few yards away from the Great Mosque, from the Dome of the Rock. And I'm saying, can these two civilizations touch each other? You know, not too much, but touch each other from time to time, to have that sense, like we have in the Course, of mutual respect, self-respect, and mutual enrichment. So that's a little bit of my own vision. And as a result, look, all of us who are dealing with this area, we come by with a very personal philosophy, I believe, you know, and how this whole encounter with the other affects us. How we see the other, but how we see ourselves, and how we see ourselves in the whole universe of the outside world.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Great answer. And speaking of the question of religious encounter, Gabby unfortunately isn't with us at the moment, but she did ask an important question, which I can even relate to.
Yes.
In the chat. She wrote, so all this inter-religious encounter, commonality, whatever, does that mean I have to be religious to be part of this piece? And it actually reminds me of one interfaith event I was at, where the speaker talked about Shalom Lema'aminim, peace for the believers. And I put up my hand and said, hello, any space for me in this piece of yours?
Peace for the unbelievers.
So where do the non-believers fit, the non-religious fit into all of this?
Well, first of all, it's interesting. Absolutely, you know, you're totally welcome. We, in the Course, we've even had atheists, you know, religious atheists. I mean, you know, Haredi atheists. And no, but look, we're all have some cultural affiliation to our background. And inevitably, you know, even in courses that are, because there are like 2 other courses at Bar Ilan that are Jewish Arab, but not an emphasis on interreligious, but they find inevitably they're going to be speaking about the holidays and dietary laws, etc. Even if they don't observe them, it is some point of commonality, which is part of the DNA. If in the course of that situation, and I've gotten comments where, again, this is not proselytizing, whatever, I'm a, you know, religious Jew of a certain ilk, you know, and I think that being religious is a positive element, as I think for observance of Islam and its, you know, incarnations or aspects that I've seen that are very positive. I think it's good. I think it's beneficial to the human condition. But again, it's not an imposition. So I find that, yes, even non-religious, you know, students. I mean, obviously they are something that you're Jewish. I mean, he's Arab, he's Muslim. So there's something there. I mean, you know about Passover, you know about Rosh Hashanah, you know about these things. You know, you may not observe them, but you know about them. So there definitely is a point of connection. So obviously, and by the way, just as an anecdote, and I can relate to it. There was some commercial on TV, like for, building bridges between people in Israeli society. Well, they say the Haredim pray, the national religious, they pray. And even the Chilonim, even the secular pray. Well, what do they pray for? And one says, I pray the PowerPoint is going to work, So, absolutely. And if anything that I've seen in terms of this sort of, I kind of feel that I'm like on the frontiers of the Jewish people, the Jewish civilization, because here I have one foot in our own people, in the Jewish people, and I'm also encountering, and I think in a pretty significant way, the Arab Islamic civilization. And I'm then seeing my own people, and I say, my God, we're all locked into our own little bubble. I mean, even the Haredim, who I do not, the very extreme ones. I mean, some of them need a little bit of a lesson in, I think, etiquette, but they're part of my people. And the ones who are very, very far from religion, and I'm Orthodox, so we really cannot accept conservative and reform ideologically as an equal, although we can certainly respect and have an appreciation for our fellow Jews, despite their belief, but that's all part of the collective. So I'm not counting anyone out. We can't afford to lose anyone. I'm talking as a Jew concerned about my own people. So yeah, definitely inclusive. The tent, the quote, interreligious tent is large enough to accommodate non-religious people.
Thank you very much. Nice and clear. Okay, I don't see any other questions at the moment, and we are now past the hour. But if anybody does want to raise any questions at this point, please raise your hands. If not, I actually have a question of my own. Okay, if just in the meantime, I'll just very quickly ask it. You talked about religious commonality and the experience of working on finding those commonalities. Did you in your experience come to the conclusion that certain parts of discussion of practices or whatever enable people to bridge more easily than others? For example, you mentioned about women wearing head coverings,
Right.
or prayers, or that, and that they could instantly start talking about their own personal experience. Is that the best route in, or any other conclusions you drew from the experience?
Those are the things that I can think of offhand, that are certainly meaningful to people that they've reported upon in their reflection papers. Irene, if Irene is still on, if you want to, add on something, Matt, I
Yes, Dr. Moulob, could you please make the question clear, because I did not understand it.
All right. Do you want to ask the question again to Irene?
Certainly. Okay, so I'm asking, which kind of subjects did, in your experience, people really relate to and find commonality and get closer to? Because we know that sometimes you can talk about religion and end up fighting over.
Well, again, the question is what in terms of religion? That's what I've emphasized. If you want to start a discussion about who the favorite son of Abraham was, was it Abraham? I'm sorry, was it Isaac or Ishmael? Then I might as well not have the course. I do more damage than good.
Usually, we would talk about anything. We would start from talking about halal and kashrut. Basically, I work in a lab, and every day, sometimes, I want to say something that I think is really meaningful and that I learned from the course. So basically, I work in a research lab, and a couple of, I'm the only Arab or Muslim there. And the girls, we share a same student room next to the lab. And one of the days I wanted to use the microwave, and no one asked me about it, and no one made a comment. And I took it upon myself, and I asked the girls there, I was like, do you eat kosher, so I can know if I can use the microwave or not? And they told me it's okay. It doesn't take a lot of work to make the microwave kosher, and they could just boil a cup and put it inside of the microwave. It's gonna be okay. And they said that it's really important for them that I would have something to heat my food in. So I really appreciated that, and they really appreciated the fact that I asked about how to be kosher, and I could have just used the microwave without no one noticing or asking. Another thing that was really meaningful, I once sent, I usually help biotechnology students, and one of them, I sent them a couple of things that would help them. And he's a Jewish student, not from my year. And I sent him a message on Saturday, and during Shabbat. And then an hour later, he did not respond because he didn't get the message. But I said, I apologize for sending you a message during Shabbat. And he truly appreciated that, to the point that he screenshotted the whole conversation and put it on Facebook. And he was really appreciative and was really moved by the fact that I apologized. And I think that this is truly beautiful, because I learned things in the course that would help me understand the other side better. And it also let me bond with them, and they truly appreciated that. And it shows that mutual respect is truly a thing that could bond people together, and it could make them really happy. And during the course, we would bond about, we would bond from the most basic things to the most big things. We would start talking about holidays, and we would talk about how holidays made us have a lot of memories. And actually, when Dr. Molav, we celebrated Hanukkah in one of the years. Hanukkah is the holiday where we light candles, right?
Yeah, definitely. The
Yeah.
menorah, yes.
So I said that in the research, in the group, Dr. Molav asked the Jewish students about their memories during Hanukkah. And it was really funny because I told them that I have personally some memories during Hanukkah, because we would go to my dad's friend's house and we would celebrate with them, and I would celebrate and I would light up the candle. And Dr. Molav actually let me light up one of the candles when we
had an educational demonstration, okay?
Yes.
The light, it wasn't during dark, and it wasn't even during Hanukkah, it was pre-Hanukkah, but it was, because the idea is not to impose and have you, carry out the commitments to another religion, but certainly to be exposed to it and to appreciate it.
Yes, and it was really meaningful because he called Jewish and Arab students to come and light, and it was really meaningful, and we sang together, and it was truly beautiful. And one of the things that I learned from the course, that you could bond over the most complicated things, but also to the most simple things, such as a color or a certain food that you love. And I actually had the chance to go to my Jewish friends' houses, and we cooked together, because I couldn't bring the food from my house because it's not kosher. So we bought the ingredients and went there and cooked. And it was truly beautiful. I think that the information that we gained from the course was truly important for both sides, because it gives you, it's a kli that lets you bond later. So I'm truly appreciative of that.
All right, thank you.
Fantastic.
It was a great, elaboration. I would also say, for instance, when we've had the few iftar dinners, like even this year, we had an iftar dinner because the fall semester ended late because it began late. And the last session, we were able to devote it to a iftar dinner. And, it's the end of the day, and the Jewish students are hungry, but the Arab students, the Muslim students, are even more hungry. So, we set out things, and I told the Jewish students, no one, eats or drinks publicly until the, Arab Muslim students can break their fast. And I think that was appreciated as well.
Wonderful. Okay.
Okay,
Doesn't look... Nimat?
well, yes. Thank you. I actually have one question.
Who is this? Slicha?
Nimet. I'm Nimet. Actually, I'm academic. Thanks, doctor, for this interesting presentation. But since I'm academic, I really care about education. So, to me, would you please explain what role does education about the culture and religious contributions of both Arab and Jewish communities play in improving relations between them? Thank you.
I understand sort of in general, but Phil, could you maybe be a little bit more specific in helping me understand? What's your name, man? I didn't catch it.
I'm Nimat, Phil. Thanks.
Amima? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Phil, maybe
my
you could.
question about education,
Yeah.
because I'm academic, most of my work,
Yeah. Where do you,
university.
what college or institution are you affiliated with?
For now, I have no college. I was like accepted for a postdoc in Ben Gurion, but because of war, everything destroyed.
Okay.
So I was working in Cyprus. I got my PhD there. So that's why I'm asking about education.
Look, first of all, what's your field?
My field is science,
Okay.
chemistry,
All right. So you have something.
electrochemistry.
So
But
something.
yeah, it's something different. It's something different.
Right.
But you know, education is very important in this role,
Right.
in this role for contributions of both Arab and Jewish communities.
Right. All right. Look, first of
So
all, you have something
yeah,
in common with Irene because she's in biotechnology, you're in physics, but still you're in the natural sciences.
yes, yes.
Right. Look, I would say a few things, and that is, offhand. One is, as Irene said, people in the sciences sometimes don't have the same interpersonal experiences, don't have the exposure to the cultural aspects of, the human civilization and all its components. So that's one thing which is important, and I think it helps the development of people. But particularly in the year that Irene was in the class, again, that was really the most. Every year, thankfully, they've been very successful. The experience, but that year was like 49 students that we had, and I had to turn away students. Normally, you're supposed to have maybe 20, 25 in a workshop, and but we made it work. And I did tell them at the end. I don't know if this answers your question sufficiently, but I did sort of give them a charge to graduates of the course. And I told the Arab students that they represent a culture and religion and human civilization that's very important, that brought some very important and worthy contributions to, again, human civilization, whether it's the spirituality inherent in Islam, the idea of giving to others, connection to God and elevating yourself and purification and things like that. And math and algebra, and then medical field, architecture, all these elements that, hospital was developed by the Muslims. And right now, as I see it, it's a civilization that's sort of struggling to find its place in the modern world and which type of Islam is going to be dominant. I think the challenge is that there's a new generation of, devoted and committed and open-minded, certainly intelligent, Arab students like themselves who can help to move the Arab Islamic civilization forward in its most noble sense. And in terms of the Jewish students, I told them, I know that for Jews in Israel, this particular time period seems to be one of challenge, but I still believe, and this was certainly the case like 3 years ago, that the Jewish people have been in their most strongest position they've been in several in centuries. A sovereign Jewish state in its homeland, an important and vibrant Jewish community in the United States and in other free countries. And the ideal that the Jewish people should serve as a light unto nations, which I think has been an ideal of Jewish history throughout its history, even when we lived in only in host societies, is something that the Jewish people can try and promote and attain. But it'll also be dependent on people who are like people in the interreligious class, students like they, intelligent and committed and sensitive. And if anything, that's sort of an educational challenge which I gave to them. I don't know if that answers your question, but that was sort of the educational message that I wanted to impart, in addition to what, the course is based upon.
Thank you. Okay, Mario,
Yes,
do we
thank
need to yeah, thanks Numat. Mario, do we need to say anything else at the end, or?
No, we can say thank you very much. I had a question, but I think we should wrap it up.
I'm really intrigued now, Mario.
Okay, yeah. So I love the fact that you emphasize not only mutual respect, which is kind of to be expected in a course and a process of the interfaith dialogue, but also the concept of self-respect, which is crucial, because if we don't respect ourselves, it will be impossible to respect others. On the other hand, many times religious people, because of their connection to God and to the truth with a big capital T, they are prone to be very sure that they have the only answer, and everyone that does not share their answer is mistaken at best, or heretic, or dangerous at worst. So I guess that this kind of attitudes also arose in your processes, probably in the beginning. So I'm curious to see how it was dealt with.
Very, very good question, actually. I think that the students who are coming to this course are at least curious about another side. Now, I did, for instance, I do sort of screen the students, before they register, just to have an idea who they are and if they're appropriate. Have to have also a reasonable command of English. But I remember there was one Muslim student that wanted to get into the course, woman, and there was no room for her this year. But she wanted to. I said, the next year it would be, certainly I would give you priority. And she said, yeah, because I really want to tell them about what the true face of Islam is. I think when people are in the mindset, I'm going to tell them, I told her, look, we're not in the business of telling them. You can share, you can offer, but you're not going to tell them. Sometimes I have colleagues or people in the Jew, are you going to tell the Arabs? I said, I'm not going to tell them anything. I'm going to discuss it with them. I'll expose it to them. I mean, that is the meaning already when you're going to tell them. In my own religious community, sometimes I can discuss religion in a more open way with non-formally religious people, but non-formally religious people, but who are open-minded, open to connection. I mean, I have one group of people, a small minyan nearby, who are that way, who are open, etc. I don't know. How do I deal with this? I go to a Torah lesson Shabbat afternoon in my big Knesset. Not a lot of people, but a rabbi who's very much in the nationalistic way, much more than I am, and talk about mutual respect. We have it, and he gives a lesson on the portion of the week, the Torah, and every so often he throws in a political dig or something, and then he knows me already, and the other people in the Beit Knesset who I think are more in his line of thinking, although even if they're not, they won't say anything, and I just say objection, and sustained. Okay, so he already knows that there has to be a dialogue with me, and I don't know, what can I tell you? Perseverance, self-respect. I don't think that it's totally I don't think it's totally unhelpful to sometimes raise your voice a little bit. I'm not saying go out and, put them in a stranglehold, but yes, that you have some very important, things to say, and maybe you have to take into account what I'm saying. What can I tell you? There's no ongoing formula. I mean, that's the way I've been dealing with these challenges, Mary, because I am a minority in my own community.
Thank you very much, Ben. And I think this is a good place to thank you on behalf of everyone and for this very thought-inspiring comments and the long-term experience that you have been conducting. And I hope there will be many more opportunities to keep organizing these kind of dialogues and encounters. I totally agree with you that we shouldn't go for the easy people-to-people encounter and stay there. And on the other hand, going directly to the conflict topics might be too hard and too painful. So the interfaith dialogue or intercultural, to be perhaps more inclusive, seems to be a very, very good opening for building a new relationship.
Thank you, and I really appreciate, and like when Phil and Mario told me today that there was a good registration, I said, my God, they're actually coming out to hear about my book. So I appreciate you all and your attention.
We
Thank
are
you.
truly proud of you, Dr. Molob, and for the
Oh.
journey that you've went through to write this book. It's really making me emotional to see how far you're going, and I'm truly proud to be one of your students. And I'm sure it's not only me, but it's also all of the other students that had the opportunity to be taught by you. It's not just the fact that you're respectful, it's the fact that you inspire each and every one of us to be better people, not only to be better Jews and better Muslims, but to also be kind to other people and try to understand and try to listen and try to develop good listening skills to other people and trying our best to just be kind and spreading kindness to the world. I think that you made us all get out of the course better people and better human beings. And the fact that you're very respectful and you're such a good human being and makes us get inspired by you throughout this life. And you're truly one of the most impactful people that I've ever met. So thank you, Dr. Molob, for everything. We truly appreciate you. And I wish you all of the best.
Thank you. And Irene, I really am honored that you have taken the time to participate, to be on the, in the audience and also to participate actively. And certainly that you've been my student and, someone who I've worked with very closely over time. And I might add that in terms of the dedication of the book, there have been sort of like two dedications. One, I've had a research partner, co-partner for many years, Chaim Levy. I'm a political scientist, social psychologist, and we did many of these studies together. And unfortunately, he passed away like 3 years ago, quite suddenly and tragically. So it's in his memory, but the main thought is in honor of the students of my Jewish-Arab interreligious dialogue course at Bar-Ilan University, who will help to build the coming peace. That's my dedication.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So thank you all. Shukran.
Thank you all. That was a fantastic presentation and discussion, full of hope.
Look, it doesn't mean that we have to go around Pollyannish,
Oh, no.
I'm going to be kind to you if you beat me up. I'm not a Canadian. You can run them over, and then I'm sorry I got in the way of your vehicle. But, yes, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all, everybody who attended as well.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining. Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.